Jakob, very much indeed, and thank you to the organisers in general and to each of you for hopefully listening for the next 15 minutes or so. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. So, Malcolm Fox, I'm here representing the Sustainability Consortium. Most recently, I was working with them as co-chair of the Assurance Working Group, very pertinent to that lady's comment earlier, how to ensure credibility is ideally systematized within the work of the consortium as well as the rest of the practitioners in the life cycle, PCR, and perhaps even the Type 3 world. So, for those of you who are not familiar with the Sustainability Consortium, it was started in July 2009 by two centers of academic excellence in the US, the University of Arkansas and Arizona State University, and some commercial partners. And they put their heads together in an attempt to help solve or help remove some of the barriers to the sustainability theory of change. It was their feeling that there just is not enough data, there's not enough transparency, there's insufficient agreement perhaps amongst us as practitioners in this field to actually really affect proper change, production, consumption, etc., toward a more sustainable future. And if nothing else, what the Sustainability Consortium has done and is doing is bringing a very pragmatic approach to trying to improve progress toward this end. And it's attempting to do this in three different ways. First of all, there's the concept of collaboration. You'll see in a moment that there's all sorts of different organizations involved in the consortium's activities and all sorts of relationships that are being formed. Second, it's a very science-based organization. A lot of its resources are being put toward bringing forward science into this environment and developing technical tools for us as practitioners and, in fact, users to put to good use. Finally, it's very much focused on research. Where indeed science is missing, the consortium has already been sponsoring new science and sponsoring new data sets to help bring about these type of changes. So it's a very healthy, it's a very collaborative, it's a very energetic organization right now. But it's also going through quite a heavy rate of change. The story so far about the consortium is as follows. This is up through the last quarter of last year. It's gained to date about 75 different members. Originally, it started off with a single working group. It evolved into 3, and now, in fact, there are 7 working groups that are currently in place. Because of the activities of each working group required some common infrastructure, they've also been very active in building certain technical groups to help support the work of each of the individual sectorally based working groups. Very recently, the first quarter of this year has been particularly active. Again, the membership has grown to 75 members. I'll show you a list of those in just a moment. They appointed their first official executive director. In fact, Bonnie Nixon came out of Hewlett-Packard, Director of Sustainability there. She is now officially on board with the consortium. They also changed their governance and have their first formal board of directors. So there's an accelerated degree of corporate strategy, there's an accelerated degree of development, and they're moving into very much a production phase of many of the business processes that they were designing over the past year or so. I show this slide, if for no other reason, to give you a perspective of the structure that's being built. Again, there are 75 corporate members, each of whom are contributing individuals to what is a very active and aggressive growing series of sectors trying to pull together solutions in the sustainability field. This is a very energetic, there's lots of conversations, it's a very exciting dialogue and a conversation that's going on right now. And attempting to bring what we hope are going to be very practical solutions to the market. Here are some glimpses of some of the Tier 1 members, and clearly you can see that they're representing, and there's a reason for this, they're representing some of the world's largest retail and some of the world's largest consumer brands. And what the consortium is doing, first of all, is focused primarily on these consumer-type retail space sustainability issues. There's also a very strong academic element to it. There are the two founding universities, Arizona and Arkansas. the consortium is very actively seeking additional collaborators from the academic community, again, to bring forward the state of science in this particular field, and bringing forward that state of science in a very open and transparent fashion. I'll show you some of the results of this research here. There's a few of the projects that are underway or are coming to a completion. The second bullet, I think, is very interesting with respect to issues of life cycle and analyses. There's quite a lot of focus on the post-consumer use and the post-use. That research is coming to an end as we speak. The last bullet, I think, is particularly interesting. One of the areas in which the consortium is working most actively is in the issue of social in addition to environmental. This is truly a sustainability consortium, and they're working as equally hard on the social metrics of sustainability as they are on the more perhaps well-developed quantitative environmental aspects of sustainability. And if you can look at the fourth bullet there, I think of particular value. The consortium has already completed some market research into the consumer space about expectations for sustainability data. And they're just now wrapping up some more market research based here in Europe, but also in the US, about what customers actually want, what consumers actually want when they see a sustainability data set. Do they want a label? Do they want a color? Do they want a percentage? Do they want a comparative analysis between average products, etc.? Not the data itself, but what is the form of that data? And with the world's 350 different eco-labels, the proliferation of indexing schemes, this research here, I think, is going to shed some light into what we can expect in the future and what, in fact, customers have with respect to expectations of the sustainability data that they're consuming. With respect to collaboration, I think if nothing else, the consortium has done a fantastic job in adapting, borrowing, gathering, consolidating the best ideas that are out there very much on an international level. And they have been working with very closely a range of different organizations. And this opportunity for collaboration within the consortium is only going to grow. So one of the very important parts of what I'm doing here is to extend the offer. There are many organizations that are working in a very similar space, and I'm going to get into the technical details here in just a moment. If you have any ideas, if you have any needs for research, if you have any suggested means by which a collaboration might be affected, please do come forward. So, what the heck is the consortium doing, right? So at the very core of its business plan is the Sustainability Measurement Reporting System, SMRS. And at the first cut, it's a life cycle-based mechanism, and its goal is to produce sustainability data in volume into the consumer space, largely B2B, but ultimately it's going to be used, of course, by consumers. The reporting system is hopefully going to facilitate exchange of data. It's going to be used by suppliers. It's going to be used by retailers. It's going to be ultimately used, of course, we understand, by indexing organizations, etc. Hopefully, it's going to permit comparisons. And in fact, the theory of the SMRS is it's going to actually facilitate all those benefits of providing sustainability data with which to make decisions in the marketplace. Let me give you a very quick flavor of what this SMRS looks like and talk also about some of the innovations. From an ISO point of view, the SMRS is going to take as inputs life cycle inventory data sets. It's going to be manufacturing PCRs, product category rules, and it's going to be outputting various levels of reporting that are going to match ISO 14025 Type 3 environmental declarations. So that's the basic input lifecycle, building PCRs or borrowing PCRs, coordinating PCRs, and then outputs into the Type 3 space, environmental data sets, and in fact social data sets as well. But there are also some innovations here, and the innovations are to meet the goal. The goal of the consortium is to bring very practical solutions today to the marketplace. And in fact, there's also the issue of volume and scale and speed, and in fact, making this whole thing commercially viable. The goal of the organization, for example, is to, within the next 3 to 5 years, build about 300 to 500 PCRs. And of course, any number of Type 3 declarations that are going to sit on top of those. The scale of what the consortium is doing is really quite impressive. One of the most important innovations is this baseline concept. What they're actually going to pull together is a market-typical life cycle inventory data set for each of those 300 to 500 products. Each of the sectoral working groups, be they electronics or be they home products, etc., is going to be assigned with the task of pulling together what represents that market-typical product, such that all these products are going to have a life cycle inventory environmental data set available for consumer use and, in fact, for retail use as well. So that's innovation number one, a baseline data set. Innovation number two is that the users of the SMRS are going to be able to customize that data set. And in fact, one large effort the consortium is undertaking is to identify those hotspot areas that are most important, that drive the environmental and social impacts. And they call them the sustainable product indicators and the sustainable product drivers. Drivers are quantitative, indicators are qualitative, and again, therefore, they can include social. So again, users are going to be customizing these baseline data sets, and as a consequence, each manufacturer of an individual product is going to be able to differentiate their products from the baseline. And you can start to see the economic incentives that might be there for an individual brand manufacturer to want to say their product, in fact, has a lower carbon footprint or a lower social footprint, in fact, than the market typical baseline. You can imagine, by the way, how some of these issues set up quality verification and assurance concerns as well, building a market-typical baseline, having a user interface, customization, etc. But it's one of the interesting challenges of the consortium. Here's a very generic graphic representation of just some of the work that the home and personal care sector group is doing. And in fact, each of the sectors, currently 7, is working on a prototype to trial through both the process of collaboration of the working group, but also the actual results. This one happens to be associated with laundry detergent, which I think is one of their first prototypes. They have worked very hard. They've actually chosen 3 impact categories. Only 2 are represented here. In all cases, it's energy, water, and carbon, and that goes across each of the different sectors. And you can see down the bottom some of these innovations and how they're going to work. They've identified those hotspots in the life cycle of a laundry detergent, and they've identified the levers by which an individual manufacturer can customize the baseline data set. And as you can see, they're the very obvious ones, but at least they've been focused from a quantitative point of view on those impacts most important to the use, manufacture, distribution, etc. of laundry detergent. So again, within the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to have an awful lot of these things on the market. Very interestingly as well, there's actually an accelerated process by which this hotspotting is also going to be available for use as well. So in the short term, the working groups are working very hard to figure out these hotspots. There's a lot of activity with respect to connectivity to existing life cycle data sets. There's a lot of work in the assurance field, and there's also a lot of work planning how to actually convert what is currently a prototype system into a production system such that this data can actually be used by the consortium members and, of course, by consumers themselves. Long term, of course, they're moving to what we hope is going to be a very scalable system. And what I did was I tried to think through what it is about the consortium that is most innovative. I was at the PCF Forum yesterday, and it's quite clear there's an awful lot of organizations worldwide. France is an excellent example, doing quite similar things. So what is it about the consortium that perhaps might be different? First of all, I know some of you in the room here are actually members of the consortium, so congratulations for being so far-sighted. In fact, we have Pierre is speaking later a little bit about the work of the electronics working group. Pierre is from HP. What is it that makes this different? And for those of you who actually have attended some of the meetings, the working group sessions, or even the in-face, you'll know that there's what is going on at least is a fantastic dialogue. So number one, I think, is this issue of collaboration. Number two, the consortium is very transparent. This is an open, science-based, academic-based entity, and that, if nothing else, has generated any number of brilliant ideas, not all of which, of course, can be used in a necessarily practical way. Practicality is, I suppose, the key point here. Without question, the members of the consortium will see results from the consortium's efforts. There is any number of fascinating dialogue, conversations that have gone on in this space for a number of years. What the consortium is very good at doing is picking the best of what is available, and they're going to be putting this data into the marketplace. And then they're going to be improving upon it. And they built this model of a baseline, which is a huge simplification, and a user customization in order to facilitate the issues of scale and volume and actual production. So with those closing words, I suppose I would say that this is one of the most vibrant debates that I've experienced, at least in my 20+ years of working in this particular field, with a very practical focus. And for those of you who'd like to learn a bit more about it, please do let me know. I encourage you to go to the website. We're looking for more collaborators. We're looking for more research opportunities. And of course, the consortium is looking for more members as well. So with that, thank you very much indeed for your time.